I think that everybody has certainly different processes for creating whatever it is they create. I don't think that a makeup guru goes through the same exact steps as an EDU creator or someone who does, React videos goes through the same process as someone like What's Inside, who's, they got to figure out how to cut open a safe.
Right.
Like step one, get a safe. Step two, like how do we cut this thing open? So everybody definitely has different approaches because they need to, and that's what I love about YouTube. Well, one of the many things I love about YouTube is just the variety of content and the variety of people creating this stuff in so many different ways to ultimately get to kind of the same finish line, which is, I hope other people are interested in watching me do this.
Conceptually, I think that the process is pretty similar for most creators. They do it their own way, and it's going to play out, in terms of specifics, it's going to play out very differently. But generally and conceptually, I think it's fairly similar across the board for most people who are on YouTube. And I think we really need to pull back the curtain on this whole process as we think more about what's going to go into season 2 and who we're going to talk to and how we're going to talk to them. It's a pretty good time to outline at the most foundational level what this is all about. So I think everybody starts in one form or another with some kind of idea, right? So what do you do? Where does a video begin for you?
Well, I mean, that's changed a lot over the years, first of all, because I've done so many different formats and so many different shows. So, a show like Mind Blow, which was a science and tech news program, that would start with just a lot of reading and a lot of research, just looking at different websites and different posts and digging deep into scientific press releases. So that was really like a research-based show, like researching what the breaking news was in, like, whether it's in medicine or biology or, a new dinosaur, whatever it is. That's very different than what we're doing now on Vsauce2, which is kind of exploring game theory, exploring thinking and how we think, and different paradoxes, that sort of thing. That's a totally different thing. So I think just within Vsauce2, depending on what show you're talking about, the process ends up being different from day one. So just to say what it is on day one now, it's what's a topic that is interesting to me, first of all, because if it's not interesting to me, then I'm going to have a hard time.
Out.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time thinking that I can make it interesting to anybody else because, if I don't like it, then why would anybody else?
It's probably not going anywhere, no.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, somebody else may be super passionate about this thing that I find boring and God bless them. And I hope that their channel does really well and they can make a much better video about that thing than I can. But for instance, like things like the missing dollar riddle or the birthday paradox, it really starts with like, what is this concept that has a surprising element to it? I think that's really an important part of choosing a topic. Is there a surprising element that I find intriguing that I think other people will also find intriguing and just kind of like twists your brain in a fun way?
I'm glad that you brought up the birthday paradox specifically because I think it's a really good example of this where you went through the process of asking whether it interested you, and it did. Then is it compelling to other people? It absolutely was. And then seeing how it's been done before. And the cool thing about the birthday paradox is that a lot of capable people have talked about this and made good videos explaining it before. So you had to deal with the task of, okay, it's kind of been done, but I have an element here that's going to be quite a bit different than anything that's happened before. I can make this video in a way that is completely fresh and new, even to somebody who's familiar with the general idea of the birthday paradox. That's a really cool part of the process, to be able to inject that freshness, to take it in a new direction. So the idea that you have at the beginning, that idea may need to change a little bit, right?
Well, I mean, I think that's the crux of all creative endeavor, honestly, is what are you adding to this thing that, other people have either already like done before or, are familiar with. Like, look at music, okay? Any musician is writing songs like that are kind of like other songs that came before them. You know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
I'm sure that, Lady Gaga listened to Madonna, or that Nirvana listened to the Beatles, and the Beatles were influenced by, I don't know who the Beatles, I'm not a Beatles aficionado, so I'm sure they were influenced by maybe like the blues, or I don't really know. This isn't a music podcast, unfortunately.
No, but there is when you mentioned things like cover songs, or you kind of were going in that direction, where if you think about cover songs, there are people who do covers who, they really don't do anything new with it, and it's not great. And then you have these legendary covers like "This Makes Me 700 Years Old," but I think of it like Whitney Houston covering "I Will Always Love You" by Dolly Parton. Okay, so Dolly recorded that song, and it was a big deal. Everybody loved it. Whitney Houston came along and did it her way. And nobody gave her a hard time because it wasn't a song that she had written originally, because she owned it. She tweaked it to reflect her style, her abilities, and it was awesome. And now we have two great versions of something.
Yeah. I think explicitly of "All Along the Watchtower."
Yes, that's...
So this is like the quintessential example of that to me. Was "All Along the Watchtower" was a Bob Dylan song that Jimi Hendrix covered, and just made it so amazing that Bob Dylan later said, well, that's a Jimi Hendrix song now. Like, Jimi Hendrix cover of Dylan's song was so good that Dylan himself was like, that's not even my song anymore. That's just Jimi Hendrix song. So this is all to say, and this is something that I have heard from budding YouTubers, from people who want to make videos, who get discouraged that topics that they're interested in have already been covered by someone. Do it anyway. Do it your way. There is no like inexhaustible topic. There's always a fresh perspective. There's always new ways to demonstrate it. There's new ways to articulate it. Like, there is no definitive really version of any explanation or topic I can think of. It's as if, no one ever wanted to do comedy again after Charlie Chaplin. They're like, well, I'll never be funnier than that guy. It's like, well, I mean, maybe, but you could be as funny as you are. So
if somebody...
that's good enough, I think.